friends, welcome back to my channel. It's January 2020, which means it is time for us to finish off the conversation of what am I going to pan this year. I first want to say thank you so much for all of your feedback. You guys were actually very helpful, although a little all over the place. Many of you were very helpful with giving me feedback. And since posting that video, I really spent a lot of time looking at the 4 palettes and scrutinizing which one I would want to pan. In all of my time project panning for eyeshadow, I've never been this indecisive. Like, I've always had a clear vision deep down of what I wanted to do, but this year was very different. So it was really helpful doing the scrutinizing and also hearing from you. As a refresher, the 4 palettes I had on the table for talking about was my Lorac Pro, my Cargo Summer in the City palette, my Revolution Emily the Wants palette, and my Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man Tell No Tales Lorac palette. Let's begin with the one that very easily eliminated itself, and that is my Makeup Revolution palette. When I looked at this palette in all seriousness, I really do love a lot of individual shades in here, and I would love the idea of panning a collaboration, like YouTuber collaboration palette. This palette is just too large, and it's a drugstore palette, which I have done a drugstore palette before, but the reality is I would really prefer to invest my time in high-end palettes that cost me a big chunk of change. I think this cost me no more than $15, and when I look at all the other palettes that I spent more money on, I would rather get use out of those. And if I don't ever end up panning the drugstore Emily palette, it's gonna be okay. It's not as bad as having a $50 eyeshadow palette go bad on me that I really did like. So for those reasons, I have eliminated the Emily palette. I then copiously started playing with my Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man Tell No Tales, and I feel like a lot of you guys were really rooting for this palette, and I really do enjoy this palette. When I look at this palette, I see a lot of really pretty eyeshadow looks that I could do with this, and I feel like I could do a lot of really easy go-to looks. It's also a very bulky palette, so wouldn't it be nice for me to use this puppy up and have something as thick as this out of my collection? However, I am actually not going to pan this palette for a similar reason as the Makeup Revolution palette. I did not buy this palette. This palette was given to me, and I love it. I love it dearly. I think it is definitely a contender for being panned in the future, but not this year. This year, I really wanted to pan something that was both, 1, on the older side, and 2, could reasonably be completed in 1 year. I feel like, despite how big this is, I could potentially do it in a year because there are only 12 grams of product in here, which 12 grams of product, what do you say? But a couple of things to note about that. The Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette has way more product in it than this, and I haven't popped any of the shades out of this yet, and we all know I don't love every single shade in here, so some of these shades would inevitably get popped out. So I do think this potentially could be a 1-year palette. But again, not that old, didn't buy it, so if it were worst case scenario to go bad on me, I wouldn't be super amiss because I didn't spend my hard-earned cash on it. That leaves me to these 2. And wouldn't you guys know it, you geniuses. I never would have thought to do this, but you guys suggested to me that I do these 2 palettes together. What one lacks, the other has, and vice versa. This thing is all shimmery shades. And I have come to find with my Lorac Mega 1 palette that I do enjoy having a nice, sometimes crease only be a matte versus a shimmer. Come in this. This has mattes in it. So when I actually paired these 2 together, I did like the end result. I was able to pull from both of these to get complete looks, and I was really into it. However, not every shade you guys last saw survived the cut. I actually took out these 4 shades over here. I got rid of black, no one is surprised. I had already got rid of Espresso because I didn't like how dark that was in my Lorac Mega Pro palette. Deep purple never read as a purple color on me, so I wasn't going to fuss with it. And then I also got rid of Slate. I just never use that kind of color in my crease. So I am instead left with Taupe, which has pan on it, Light Bronze, which has pan on it. I have Gold, which is a rarely touched color that I have, so I want to challenge myself to use it. I have Pewter and Garnet, and then I have these three lovely mattes up here, Light Pink, Mauve, and Sable. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a close-up look so we can document where I am starting on this palette. My plan with this palette is to focus on using up these mattes first because that's what's missing in the Cargo palette. And if I do get those wiped out, I will then play more with these darker sort of metallic shades down here. We'll see. I definitely am only going to allow myself to work on this in 2020. Anything I have remaining in this after that year, if there's anything in here, is going to be thrown in the garbage because this is literally one of the oldest palettes that I have remaining in my collection. So this is where we're starting with the Lorac Pro 1 palette. Then we'll go ahead and show you where I'm starting on my Cargo Summer in the City palette. As you can maybe see in here, I do have some dips going in some of the top shades in the top row. This is a much more powdery palette than the typical ones I use, so I will not be surprised if I have some pan showing maybe after a month if I put in a concerted effort on one of the shades in particular. That's what I have found with Cargo. I do have pan on some of my other Cargo shades in a different palette that I have, and so I am excited to do this. I would really love to see myself wipe out both of these palettes in the next year. It would be such a huge dent in my makeup collection, and it would be some of the oldest palettes that I have remaining. One thing you guys will see that I'm lacking in here that is a staple for me is I don't have any cream colors, so I probably will be looking into my collection and pulling out a cream shade here or there to work on in conjunction with these. But as usual, I will give you guys monthly updates as I go through this particular challenge. I'm really looking forward to this and seeing what I can accomplish in a single year since I have spent 2 years on one palette, which in hindsight feels crazy, but I'm really proud of that accomplishment. The other rule that I'll put in place is I will plan to use these Monday through Friday, and then my hope and goal will be on the weekends to very heavily scrutinize the drugstore like quads and duos and trios that I have because I never got to touch those in 2019 because I was so focused on my other palettes. And I think if I can accomplish going through all of that, I will have really whittled down my eyeshadow collection into a very manageable amount that I will be super thrilled with. But I hope you guys are excited to watch me pan these over the course of the year, and I will see you in 1 month. Bye guys.